Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way in. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Black. I am the host, creator, whatever you want to call it. And we're doing transfer news. So yeah, like I said, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And most importantly, get into the chat. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling on this Thursday. Happy to be chatting with you guys. Sorry I was a little late. I was having like a complete meltdown about something unrelated to this. So yeah, we have some things to talk about, some new targets that Arsenal said to be interested in. New targets, and we'll talk about those targets, what was said in the Daily Mail, as well as the Times article that came out today about our transfer business, and then also the new head of scouting that was hired, so or is in the midst of being hired or whatever. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're going to go ahead and get into it. I just need to send this quick email. Just wild. All right. Let's see who's all in here. Sorry I was late. Just shit was going on. Miller says, Jess, we miss you. Miss you guys too. Josh says, I don't know who the source is, but this feels like PR to calm the fans down. The Secret says, Jess, something, baby, wow. Sam says, Rogers is never going to happen. That's like 70, 80 million. We'll get into it in a second. Lloyd says, where would or how would he fit into our system? Left wing second striker role. This rumor is confusing. His not that creative. I've watched to know he won't fix our low block issues. Says sub whoever is the city sporting director fares because Eitnery for 35 million pounds is a steal. The boss says, for your first drink in the morning, do you prefer coffee or tea? Definitely a coffee person. Without that, I don't want to speak to anyone. So yeah. But all right. So new targets. I think this transfer window has been so far, and like before people are like, it's just opened. We know that it doesn't matter if it just opened or not. When the transfer window is about to start or, whatever, there's usually rumors that come out. And essentially all of the targets that we've had over the last couple of days have been the exact same targets that we had last summer, which I think is a little bit frustrating because it's like, well, if you couldn't get them last summer, then why are we still going after them this summer? We were interested in Sesko last summer. Now that he's our main target this summer, we were interested in Nico Williams last summer. Now they're, still hemming and hawing about him. Zubamendi was supposed to come in last summer or last whatever, and now he's coming in this summer. So I think maybe some fresh links or some fresh targets would be great because ultimately, especially when it comes to the attacking positions, only getting one attacker is just it's unacceptable. There's just no way we can go into next year or next season going into it with the exact same starting group of forwards. There's just no way. We already know that Havertz is going to be starting, and the PR around him is already like it was already in full flow, and now it's even worse with all these people posting pictures of Kai Havertz all bulked up and shit. I'm like, I don't care about that. But we know he's going to start. So at the very least, it'd be nice to get a new starting left wing in because it just the attack needs a refresh. And I just don't understand if like we don't really know because the club is just so unclear about everything that they're trying to do. I've never seen a club so unclear. Most clubs, especially the good ones, will say we're going out to get blank, 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 and blank, and that's what they're going to go do. With Arsenal, they're very half-hearted and like not very, it's not we're going to get it. It's like they're looking at, they're considering, they're monitoring, they're deciding, they're looking, and with the attack, they don't seem as desperate as they probably should be to just start over and tear it apart and start again because it's just not good enough. It's nowhere near it. I actually saw somebody recently say that They thought our attack was not even in the top 6 in terms of quality. And I was like, when I said that at the last summer, everybody was trying to kill me for it, but it's fucking true. Our attack is not good enough. It's not as good as City's, Liverpool's, Chelsea's. If United go and they finish off in Bomo, Acuna, and Gyökeres, which that's who they're going to get now, or they're looking to go get, we won't be as good as them either. So how much further do we need to go down? Newcastle's attack better than ours. Like, I don't know why it feels like this is the biggest mountain to climb, and why just starting over with the attack and tearing it apart and getting rid of players like Trossard and Martinelli is like the end of the world for them, and they can't do it. So seeing some new targets come out was interesting. And also I'll go through, what the articles were saying from the Daily Mail and the Times. But the main gist of the article from let's see, who was it? Jacob something. I think his name is Jacob something. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Because there was one from like Ian Khan or something, and then there's the one from someone else. So just give me 2 seconds to look for it. Gary Jacob, I think his name is. Gary Jacob, maybe. Right? Let me pull it up. Where is it? Why is it so far down? Did he not? Oh, there it is. Okay. So essentially, Gary Jacob from the Times is saying that Arsenal add Morgan Rogers to the list of attackers. Do you guys want to see it? Hold on. Let me actually share my screen so you guys can see it. Here. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see it. All right. Let me make myself smaller. Okay. So Arsenal add Morgan Rogers to the list of attacking targets. So that was kind of like what he started off with. And then any deal to acquire the versatile England midfielder from Aston Villa would be costly, while Igor Paschal is an alternative to Nico Williams and Leroy Sané. So, Morgan Rogers is like an attacking midfielder. We've seen him in the Prem. We know what he's about. He's a ball carrier. He's quite direct. There are qualities that he has that we don't have in our midfield. I think we lack athleticism, ball carrying. We lack flair. We lack tempo control. We lack technical quality. There's quite a few things that we lack in midfield. He doesn't have all of them, but he has some of them. Right. Arsenal have added him to the list. Mikel Arteta has prioritized strengthening the variety of his attack after Arsenal had to settle for blah, blah, blah. We had 22 fewer goals than last season, which again just shows the lack of quality we have up front. I know that there were people missing throughout, but that even shows that even the depth might not be good enough. So again, Arsenal need to focus almost every single ounce of what they have on the attack and not settle for just one attacker. In an ideal world, they really should be going for a winger, a striker, and an attacking mid. Even the idea that there's a scenario where we may just end up with a striker feels very unserious to me. But Arteta likes versatile players and has tended to prefer signing those with the Premier League experience. Rogers, 22, struck 8 goals and claimed 11 assists, whatever. He has played in attacking midfield and striker as well as out wide, extended his contract at Villa until 2030 in November, less than a year after he joined from Middlesbrough. But Arsenal would have to offer a significant transfer fee in order for Villa to consider selling one of their best youngsters. And then let's stop there for just a second. Let's stop there, because the Morgan Rogers conversation is obviously separate from the winger. So, and let's put a little wall there and let's just talk about this. Um, yeah, I think if you were to get Morgan Rogers, then you wouldn't get a winger. It would just be him, and he could cover quite a few of those positions. If we were actually having like a serious window, um, a player like this would be nice to come in. And it feels very unlikely because Arsenal are feigning like they're broke. So even being interested in a player like this is to me a little bit laughable when you guys are running around acting like you guys can't get Nico Williams or, anybody like that, like Rodrigo, but yet you're going to walk up to Aston Villa, a Premier League club, and ask them for their best player. But from the perspective of having the type of summer window that would show the fans that you're serious and bring in the type of quality and versatility and the type of profiles that actually will change the way people have to play against us, he would definitely add that. I also like the idea of weakening the teams around us. I think it's a side mission, but if you take Morgan Rogers, then you weaken Villa, and if we had were in Europa League or had failed to get into Europe, best believe the better teams would be trying to pick off our best players. So why are we not doing the same thing? I just don't think Arsenal are serious enough to try to do something like this. I don't think, because the reality is everybody has a price. And if like a Liverpool or a City went after him, nobody would be saying it was impossible. But because it's Arsenal, it feels impossible because we're just not the type of club that's going to have the money or be serious about it. So, yeah. But I do think that he solves more of the issues than just a winger would. If it comes down to either just a winger or an attacking mid that's a little bit more versatile, you might want to go for, like we talked about with Xavi Simmons, somebody that can play left wing, but is also going to be, good cover for Odegaard, or somebody that can play instead of Odegaard, somebody that can play left-sided center mid, somebody that can play up front. I think these types of moves are what we should be looking to do if we're serious. We're just not. So yeah, it just feels so very far-fetched. He may be on the list, but Arsenal would have to be so serious, and they're going to ask for 100 million. He's an English talent, especially since we don't tend to want to pay a lot up front. If we were going to pay more up front, then we could get a smaller fee, but because we tend to want to spread it over thousands of years, we're going to have to pay the 100 million. So yeah, it's I'll start this because Aegon is putting something in the chat, but I would love for any of this to be true. Even if Morgan Rogers is not my favorite player, like there are other players that I would also really, really like for us to go after, but just the level of player, the way that people I think would think twice about Arsenal seriousness. He's the type of player that just kind of there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. I know people don't like that saying, but you can break down deep blocks with dribbling, you can break down deep blocks with passing, whatever. And we don't have either one of those, to be honest. We don't have somebody that can pass through the block, and we don't have somebody that can run through the block. Also, he would be a good transition threat, somebody that, can just kind of run through the lines and run beyond and would give us some athleticism and that kind of stuff. He has all his years in front of him. He's young, he's 22. And I do think we need a fourth main midfielder. If Zubamendi, Rice, and Odegaard are your main three, you have to have somebody else with different qualities to those players so that you can, one, rest some of your better players, but also put pressure on them to perform well and also add different characteristics that they don't have. There is something missing from a creative standpoint and at like almost like you're missing something when you only have Odegaard and Rice as your best eights, you know what I mean? And I just don't think that Kai Havertz and Marino should stop us from going out and getting players that are better. If Arteta views our attacking mid options as Odegaard, Rice, Kai Havertz, and Marino, we're cooked. We are cooked. Your rivals are going out there and getting the Shirkies and the Wirtzes and those types. somebody else will go after and get Javi Simmons, but we're going to be running around with Marino and Kai Havertz at attacking mid. Fuck no. You know, you need to go get more than that, you know? Josh says, Jess, do you think there's any truth to the links to that Greek 17-year-old 45 million as a madness? No. I mean, I think we may be interested, but no, I don't think so. Nobody else has come out and said that, you know, they have any information on it. I think if it were something that was true, like an Ornstein or somebody like that would have validated it, but it just seems like lip service, maybe from his agent or something. Let's see. John says, I've seen MLS do Rogers' job sometimes last season. Josh says, I gave up on signing such players because if we want such players, then we wouldn't have sold ESR. Can I be honest? I get what you're saying, but ESR and Rogers to me are similar in only the fact that they're English and they like to carry the ball. ESR to me is just, you know, like he's just, yeah, I don't know. You know, he just didn't have the same horsepower that a Rogers has. Like he's a little on the lighter side. So I get the Arteta doesn't like ball carriers and giving up on that or whatever, but let's not pretend like Morgan Rogers and ESR are the same types of players, really, beyond the fact that they like to carry the ball. Aegon says Rice is our only ball carrier is pathetic. Essam says Arteta will not sign anyone who might threaten Havertz or Odegaard. They are starting no matter what. Says so. It's still interest in Rodrigo when we are going to start talks. I didn't see the Liao thing. Let's see, Lyle or whatever, because Aegon is putting this out here saying Sky Sports is saying Arsenal are interested in signing Rodrigo from Real Madrid. Rodrigo is high among the left wingers on the list, along with players such as Nico Williams, Sané, and Rogers. I don't know if that's new information or anything. And I haven't seen it. It must just be, you know, they're all kind of regurgitating the same thing over and over and over again. Oh, here, I see it now. Arsenal are interested. Yeah, it's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. So, yeah, until we start moving, and we probably won't move on a left winger until if we even do get one, it probably won't be until we get the striker, because I know we're going to try to penny pinch as much as we possibly can on the striker so that we can have more money to do something else. But I'm telling you, Arsenal need to make sure that they get more than one attacker, whether that comes in the form of a versatile attack-minded player like an Eze or a Rogers or a Javi Simmons or something like that, or a left wing. You need to get a striker plus one of those. Like otherwise, it's a failure. Like there's just no other way to spin it. I know there'll be Arsenal fans saying it's fine. They'll start the bullshit about Martinelli coming back into form and all this kind of stuff, but I'm not trying to see him start next season. I can't do it. It's enough is enough. So let's go into the Paschal. So Paschal 24, which he's way older than I thought he was. But anyways, Paschal 24 would be a cheaper option than Rogers and Arsenal's other wide forward targets, Bayern Munich's Leroy Sané and Athletic Bilbao's Nico Williams. The Brazilian mainly operated on the wing for Feyenoord, scoring 16 goals and contributing 14 assists in the league. He was named the Dutch Footballer of the Year. Signed from Curitiba in his homeland 3 years ago. He has a contract until 2029 and has been linked with Leeds United. He has not been capped for Brazil. I mean, they do have a lot of quality, but you haven't been called up yet, buddy. All right, and you're 24. Arsenal have held talks with the representatives of Williams and Sané, who is out of contract at Bayern Munich. Both wingers would be expensive, limiting funds elsewhere. Sané, 29, is earning more than 200. Is earning more than 220,000 pounds a week at Bayern and would probably want similar wage and signing on fees, blah, blah, blah. And Williams has $42 million release clause, but is expected to want a wage of more than 250,000 pounds a week, which are things that we already know. We know that we know how expensive the wages are going to be for Williams and for, Zane, but I don't actually know what the wages would be for this guy. But do I necessarily want this guy? I don't know. I've seen a couple. We've been linked to him before. We were linked to him in January. So he predates Berta, and Berta's, recruitment. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Pashao. If you need to be linked to somebody else other than Leeds, or I'm thinking that that's your level. I don't know. So let's see. Chris says, I actually like Pashao, but I think we need better than him to win the title. Exactly. I just don't see how. Josh says, because Mikel can't coach such players. Johnny D says, I'm not saying it's fine until we're well on the trajectory to win the title in a few months. John says, I swear to God, it's the Arsenal enjoys to be made fun of. It's like Arsenal enjoys to be made fun of. Jay Neb says, what have you seen of this 17-year-old you? I think that 17-year-old, the Greek one, he looks really, really good. The only problem with him is that, and it's not even really a problem either, is that he plays in the same position and in the same way as Ethan and Max Dowman. So I don't know why we would spend 40 something on him. I do want us, because I don't want to be disingenuous. I do feel like Arsenal really need to get a grip of finding young talent and developing it, either to be sold or to come into the first team, especially because we're the type of club that always, every single window is feigning broke. You need to be in these conversations with these up and coming young players for whatever reason, whether it's, again, for the first team or for the future. That doesn't mean that happens instead of improving the squad for now, because I know people, well, we need to think about now. Even if we're thinking about now, and like it seems like everything is dependent on this one season, make or break. If that season doesn't work out, then it's all done. The reality is that that's only in regards to Mikel, really. Like, there will be seasons after this season, and we still need to be building for the future, because there will be more seasons after this one. And so Arsenal have kind of neglected to have any sort of, stronghold in a certain area where they, recruit from, or a feeder club or anything. We're so behind our rivals. It's crazy, especially Chelsea and Man City, when it comes to that particular part of recruitment. And so that Greek player, even if he does play in the same position as Ethan and Max, could be somebody that you build for the future, or you build to sell later, or whatever. So I don't have a problem with us bringing in that type of player. It just can't be instead of improving the first team. And we tend to struggle to walk and chew gum at the same time. So yeah, but I don't even know if I 100% believe that this is even happening, the Greek player, because nobody has said anything. It just kind of was reported throughout the night, and like nobody seconded it. Nobody said like, yeah, it's true. So it is what it is. Spacetime says, I suspect Rogers, Eze, Simmons, Rodrigo are preferred. They are 2 and 1 players, left wing and left 10. Cronkies are getting only 1 on top of Sesko. And to me, if the level is Eze, Rogers, Simmons, Rodrigo, I'm okay with that, because those players are like top level, like that top group. And so that's fine. You just need to make sure you bring them in. None of this, oh, we couldn't figure it out, or we didn't have the money, or whatever. You were about to spend 50 million on a center back that does not start for us. So there's money fucking somewhere, because you weren't spending the Sesko money or the Zubamendi money on Hoyson, were you? So there's money there that they were going to spend on a release clause, by the way, for Hoyson. So I'm not trying to hear that we don't have the money. Spend it on attackers. Be okay with shaking the table. It's okay. Like, competition for places and better players coming in only iron sharpens iron and all that kind of stuff. If you really believe your players are good enough, they will rise to the occasion. I don't necessarily feel like Arteta is protecting the players and trying not to. I just think that he's almost like okay with them because those are his players. I don't know if he's trying to make sure that they don't get outshone or whatever. I don't know if he's thinking that far into it. I think Arteta's issue is that he loves Havertz. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Victor says he's speedy, also on the ball. Martinelli fast but slow on the ball. Godson, thank you so much for your super chat. Says this window will be very underwhelming. Arteta's bad signings costing us now. That Havertz deal killed us. The club stinks. I think that this window has the capability of being a really good window, or it has the capability of being a really bad window. There's everything is still to play for. I know other teams have you know, kind of gotten the jump on us, but there's still plenty of talent out there. So there's really no excuse, even though they've gone out and gotten Wirtz and Turkey and those types of players, there is still talent out there. So, there's no reason why from now until July we shouldn't be able to get what we need done. They could turn this window around if they want to, or not necessarily turn it around, but like get involved and get going in this window at any point. John says we are already witnessing the downfall of this incredible team before winning something. And that's another thing, like you need to start underpinning this group with really good players. I think it is really kind of sad that, this group of players I think are being looked at in kind of like a negative light now, like they're just not good enough, but they just never had the difference makers and X factor to help take them over the line. They don't have an experienced manager, and the manager and the club keep neglecting the 2 or 3 positions that would just take us over the line. And so now it's like, oh, this player's not good enough. This player's not good enough. It's not that they're not good enough. It's that even if you had taken KDB and like Rodri and Holland out of the City side, that group of players would struggle. We saw it. We saw it literally this season that without some of those players, they look average. They don't look as good. They're just like a top 4 side, right? So you need that X factor, and the club keep avoiding it for some reason, and it's just unnerving. Like it just irritates, So these players are good, but they need help. It's just, I don't know when the gimmick of doing a lot with a little will end. Callie says the problem is if we wait too long, we might not get any of the players that we want, especially in the striker position. At this rate, I fear we lose out on not only Gyökeres but Sesko as well. So let's get into that part, because they did talk about, the way that recruitment happens at Arsenal now. So he basically said that while Arsenal's rivals have been quick to strengthen this month, the club's new sporting director, Andrea Berta, likes to negotiate several deals for the same position at the same time before deciding which to activate. Arsenal's recruitment will be a balancing act in terms of fees and ages. They have been considering how to best juggle their transfer kitty, and signing an expensive winger would likely limit funds that can be spent elsewhere in this team. Now, just stopping right there just for a second, is signing a winger should not limit how much we can spend on a striker. The midfielder is already done. So what other things are you prioritizing where a winger, which is one of your main one of the main things that you're trying to get, what would that necessarily be limiting? Because other reports have come out about Kivior is staying. So you don't need a center back anymore. The backup goalkeeper should cost pennies. So what would a left winger be limiting? Because if you're telling me that we don't have enough to do Zubamendi and the striker without one of the striker or the winger ending up being a cheaper option, where the fuck is the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? That we should not be penny pinching and robbing Peter to pay Paul for the striker and the winger. The only thing I can think of is, getting a expensive left winger would mean that maybe an attacking midfielder that they can't get or be cheaper, but yeah, the striker should not mean that the left winger does not happen and or is a cheap fucking option. You know, you have neglected this squad for especially the attack for multiple windows. So there's just no reason for us to be penny pinching right now. I don't wanna see your cheaper option for left wing. I don't wanna see it. I just don't think it makes sense based on the fact that this was the window that you're meant to have. Now that Kiwior saved you some money because Kiwior ended up being a decent player, now you don't have to spend 50 million on a center back. Now that Juan Garcia is out of the picture, you don't have to spend 20 million on a backup goalkeeper. So where else are you prioritizing outside of those attacking positions? They also have been considering whether to sign young players with longevity and potential sell on value or whether to focus on bringing in experienced players to help them over the line after they finish second again and reach the Champions League semifinal. Arsenal's net spend was 20 million last summer, suggesting they had money set aside for a big deal. Arteta has suggested that his transfer funds are flexible depending on the players who become available. However, the club are keen to generate money from player sales. We know the players that are available, but the futures of Trossard and Martinelli are unclear. Wouldn't mind if either one of them left, to be honest. From next season, Max Dowman will be integrated more into the first team. The 15-year-old attacking midfielder is expected to go on the preseason tour. And I have something from another article that speaks more about his role, and we'll get into that in a minute. And last but not least from here is Arsenal are in talks to hire Matteo Tognazzi to their recruitment staff working under Berta, the 38-year-old. That's young. The 38-year-old worked as chief scout at Juventus between 2017 and 2023 before becoming a director of sport at Granada in Spain. He, we'll get into what his track record looks like, but let me just read some of these comments. Cyprian says, "How do the inability to sell restrain their financial power?" I mean, yeah, if we could sell better, we'd be in a better position. Roshan says Sky Sports have reported both striker and left winger are priorities. Better source than Isaac Khan. Well, better make sure that you get it done, because it's not even just Isaac Khan that has downplayed our ability to get a left wing. Ornstein has also downplayed it and said that we may need to sell someone, which is what I said earlier on in the window when they were talking about re-signing Trossard and there was no real movement on Martinelli going. I was like, so you guys actually expect me to believe that you're going to keep both Martinelli and Trossard and then bring in a left wing? Do I look like Boo Boo the Fool to you? Do I look like the Nutty Buddy Peanut Butter Man? No, I'm not fucking dumb. Like, you guys are not going to bring in a left winger and keep both of those players. So it was never me that said that, hold on. I'm sorry. My life is just in tatters right now. But yeah, I'm not dumb. Like, I know my club. They are not going to bring in another left winger if both of those players are there. So I was already concerned about whether or not we'd bring in a left wing. And then Ornstein also doubling down on the fact that we might need to sell made me think, oh, okay. So Sky Sports are saying that it's a priority, and maybe it is a priority, but it will, like, if they don't sell, then are they really, do you actually think they're going to bring someone in? Like, let's be honest, so we'll just see how it goes from there. But it's not just Eisen Khan that said that left wing may not happen. So Chris Frazier says, not sure I even believe that story. Berta didn't move like that at Atletico. Sounds like an Arsenal thing. Is not a Berta thing, always looking for a deal. Victor says, this club is a social experiment. This is appalling, to be honest. How the hell have we gone from war chest to penny pinching? It's all PR right after we lose. Like, after we have no, it's not Terry texting me. Like, when the season ends and we end poorly, it's always the same kind of like narratives coming out about how we're going to have this big summer. And then it's happened even quicker, sorry. it's happened even quicker than last time that they start to lower the expectations quickly, and so it's not even like, yeah, like you can have the left winger as a priority, but it's only if gonna get done if you sell someone. The expectations are being lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered, so I don't know how people don't see it. It happens every window where we start off with this big war chest and you're going to get Isak and Michael Elise and you end up with fucking Sterling. Like, you know, Space Time says Kroenke's always said they want a self-sustaining model. All those war chest claims were bullshit. Liverpool is the ideal model for them. And you still can't do Liverpool without having a world-class manager and also top-notch recruitment. They don't move slow like us. The other thing is we're always trying to reinvent the wheel. We always think we're playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers and we're so fucking smart. But all the good clubs they just go quickly. They have an option. If they can't do that option, they fire on the next option. We have to lay all of our options out on the table, talk to everybody, and then we're going to fire on all of our options. Fuck that shit. Just do what everybody else is doing. Just do what everybody else is doing. Stop trying to act like you're so smart. Because you know what? You never end up in front of those people, and our summers are never better than theirs. So like, how are you the ones that are the smartest in the room? I just don't get it, but that's just me. John says it's like Rice made Arsenal bankrupt. Where is the UCL money from last year and this year? We can't even pay 50 million nowadays. Stuart says Liverpool have elite talent ID and fast negotiators. Exactly, 100%. Josh says our sport understands the need for X factor in the team and are looking at Olise and Isak among others, proceeds to buy Sterling and Marino, and people wonder why fans are so pessimistic. Exactly. That's why when people are doing up it's just early on in the window and, you need to give it time and all that. I'm like, I don't need to give it anything. I don't need to give it anything. I'm not, I've lived through it, been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. I know what an Arsenal transfer window looks like. I know how it usually starts. I know how it usually ends. I know we'll get the striker. That for sure. Zubamendi's coming in. Those are the two things that we know we're getting, but there's still the backup goalkeeper. I want them to lock off this whole idea of getting a defender. I would love for somebody to say that now that Kivior's here, we're not looking at defenders anymore. Because quite frankly, and I know some people disagree with this, but we don't need more defenders. It's not a priority. Like, it should not be a priority. There's going to be something that's short. Most teams have one space or one position that's maybe a little bit short, but they're able to kind of like finesse it for a season. I kind of need the defense to be a finesse if we're going to finesse something. It cannot be the attack again. Arsenal never get everything done. So any money that was going to go towards the defense, now that Kivior is going to stay, we just need to just grin and bear it and move forward. Like, no more defenders. I'm tired. Like, you were going to buy a 50 million pound defender that was going to sit on our bench behind Gabriel and Saliba. And you want to talk to me about not maybe having the funds for a left wing? I'm not listening. I don't care. You have Kivior, you have Kala, you have Tommy, you have MLS, you have Saliba, Gabriel, White, and Timber. Make it work. Make it work. Make it work. Make it work. If you get anything, it needs to be the last thing coming in, cheap, young defender. It cannot be something that you're spending 50 million on or anything. Nothing. Like, I'm sorry. It needs to be the last thing coming in. Victor says, so if we were to get Hoyson and Garcia, where would the money have been? We already look broke without buying anyone. Getting those two would have made us bankrupt, which is why I feel like prioritizing a defender or pretending like it's more important or just as important as anything else to me is bullshit. Because even with all the injuries that we have, like, people are saying, well, Tomiyasu is never available and, we're losing Zinchenko and Tierney. How many minutes does Zinchenko and Tierney actually really play? Tomiyasu wasn't here, and even with all our defensive problems, we've had the best defense in the league 2 years running. So we don't need to fix it. It's done. It's fine. With whatever group that we have, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. It's okay. Like, and if we get if we get in a bind and we have more injuries than we think, I'd rather be going into the January transfer window needing a defender than going into the January transfer window and looking at strikers and forwards. So if there's anything that we're going to go in with a little bit of question marks on, and we kind of need a little bit of luck there, it's going to have to be defense. It's going to have to be defense. Get over it. Like Tomiyasu didn't exist this season. Zinchenko played 5 minutes. Like, hello? I don't get it. Stuart says, how much money we have seems to fluctuate depending on what story we're trying to spin. Stuart definitely is on the same page as me. I do think that we have there are different stories that come out in different money amounts and how much we can spend based on, I think Arsenal want to keep the expectations low. I think when the season first ends, they want us to feel like we're going to have this big summer, and then they drop us down with the expectations and they drop them down once it's actually time to commit to something. Blake says, honestly, I don't feel positive about our transfer window this summer. This is why I'm no longer active on Twitter. Dio says, Hato is a young defender that should be cheap, though. I don't think he is going to be cheap, though. I don't. I think with the amount of teams looking at him and the hype around him, we stole Timber from them for 40 million, and Timber had less hype than Hato does. If he costs 50 million, 50 million is a lot for Arsenal. That is like a baseline fee for most good quality players. Like I said, like an Nketiah, you're spending 30 million on. The market is crazy, right? So 50 million is kind of like the bare minimum you're going to look to have to spend for a good player, especially when you don't like to pay a lot up front. We cannot fuck around with that. Like we just don't have time. Sorry. 88 miles per hour says Arteta neglecting strikers. And again, no Tomiyasu, bad injuries from Calafiori, Zinchenko and Tierney playing pity minutes, and White being out. And all of those things were true this season, and we still had the best defense in the league. So if that replicated next summer or next season, would it really be that catastrophic? No. But if we replicate what we did this season in attack, we are not winning anything. So we need to just the defender, bin it off. Like, you have Kivior, make that work. And you decided to spend the money on Calafiori. I don't know what to tell you. Calafiori had injury problems before he got here. Make it work. Make it work. I don't want to hear about defenders anymore. It's tiring. So this is basically what the Times said. And so he put Morgan Rogers out there. Zane, Nico Williams. I feel like Rogers might be the biggest outlay from a fee perspective, but who knows what his wages would be. I'd love to think that my sporting director can do more than Edu, when it comes to negotiating and bringing in big players. You brought in big players, to Atletico, players that had big reputations or big names or whatever. Not all the time, but sometimes. And so I would like to see that replicated at Arsenal. I really don't want to see just Sesko and Zubamendi and a goalkeeper, or else I'll be crashing out. But, I like some of the names that are being there. And just the fact that there's all those names available that we could go after means that there's kind of no excuse, which I like. Again, this Lyle person said, Rodrigo, and Nico Williams, Roger Sane. There's options, so just go for someone, but I think none of that will happen until after we do the striker. Johnny says Lookman is the perfect left wing for me, not crazy expensive fee or wages. John says he's proving Alex Ferguson's statements wrong. Defense doesn't win you titles. Dio says the defense is going to break next season without Hato being signed. But whatever, I'll just let it play out, I guess. Well, you can actually paper over the cracks of a not so great defense, or a defense that has some frailties with attack, and so I just feel like we need more in attack. It is what it is. Like, if we get a defender, it needs to be the last thing coming in. If you're spending 50 million on a defender, but you miss out on a left wing, then have you really improved? Like, come on. It's just ridiculous at this stage. We don't need more expensive ass defenders. Go find a deal. Go find a player in South America for $5 million. I don't know. Make it work. I had some more from the Daily Mail thing that came out from one of the other people, and I'd screenshotted some of it, so I will read some of that to you guys because it's paywalled. So yeah. says we will address defensive issues in January. That's how I kind of feel. I just don't want to see us put any sort of big fee on a defender right now because it's going to mean that we're not going to get some sort of attacker. Like we have to just get over it at some stage. I just don't get it, but make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. So yeah, what do you guys think about, before we move on, the Morgan Rogers thing, the Paschal thing? Would you guys be interested in bringing in the Brazilian winger? He had a lot of goals and stuff at Feyenoord, but it is a much different league. And he's not somebody that I feel like comes straight in and takes Martinelli's spot, which personally for me, we can't go into next season with the exact same starting three up front. I just feel like it just sends the wrong message. We know Havertz is going to be starting. That's something that is not going to change, but even with Sesko coming in, but the left winger needs to be somebody different. It's just giving, just throwing up, like crying, screaming, throwing up. Cannot watch him run in a straight line. So, but somebody like this, I'm just not sure his level is high enough to knock Martinelli off his perch. And that's kind of what we need. So yeah, I don't know. Cyprian says, only Rogers, he impresses me against us. Blaze says, so basically next season we will have the same attack with Martinelli as a left winger and Havertz as striker. This is sad. It can't be that. We need that to change. Like it just cannot be. I can't do it. I won't make it. I'm sorry. I won't make it. If we start next season and the defense is exactly the same, and we start with Odegaard, Rice, and Partey, and then the attack is Martinelli, Kai Havertz, and Saka, I will not be there. I will not be there. Things need to change. We need to see a shakeup. It's not working. It's not even as simple as if everybody had been fit, we would have won the league. No, we wouldn't have won it. We wouldn't have won it because we still would have missed the goals that we needed to miss, because being fit doesn't mean that Havertz knows how to lock his ankle. Like, come on. It's literally that. Burmese says, is Rogers a 10? I think he's a 10. I think he's like a versatile attacker, type of player. He's definitely not an 8, but he's somebody that, where he probably doesn't have like the flair or the, technical ability of maybe like a traditional number 10. He has that, what I would call like that typical British number 10 je ne sais quoi of being able to run through defenses and being a really good ball carrier. England like creates these like it's a factory. The amount of players that they have that are good space runners, good ball progressors, very direct type of number 10s versus the more flair technical type. They just create them like nobody's business. I've never seen anything like it. And Rogers is really good. I think it also just sends a message. And I know that we don't have to send a message, but, it would be nice to send a message to people. We're not afraid to take your best player. We're not afraid to pay the big fees. We're not afraid to go big. He's Premier League proven. And, Arteta likes that shit, so why not him? Paperboy says, I already know I'm locking off next season. These signings, not doing it. What was the point of securing Champions League football exactly? Just to get the money and to give it back to the Cronkies? I don't know. Arsenic says, I will not be watching next season. Victor says, Havertz is buff now, so we're winning the treble. I'm so sorry, but the PR around him has got to, it's almost like embarrassing at a certain point. Like, I know that some people are just joking, but I think some people are taking it serious that, because he's getting buff, like it's the same thing as the fire in the belly for Martinelli. It is carbon copy. It is the exact same thing. the fire in the belly for Martinelli is the exact, or for Jesus is the same thing we're seeing for Kai Havertz now. And we saw how it ended. We need better. Like at the most, Kai Havertz is a squad player for us. Rep says it seems like Liverpool winning the league without any signing gave our board the wrong ideas. Johnny says Rodgers is a box-to-box 8, in my opinion, not a 10. Fair enough. What else says Rodgers is a much worse finisher than Martinelli. Well, I don't know what to tell you there. Martinelli is good when he gets into into the box and can take a one-touch finish, but we need more tools in our toolbox on that left-hand side. I think our bigger problem at left wing is not really about goal scoring. It's about the fact that it's just a dead zone. It's a graveyard for creativity. There's no actions over there. There's no, nothing. There's no technical security. It's just head down, road runner out the end line and hoping for a corner. And I think that limits us more than somebody that maybe scores the same amount of goals or maybe even a little bit less, but can do more in that left half space. And so I would sacrifice two goals from, that left-hand side if that meant that they helped the striker score a lot more, they helped Saka score a lot more, and they kept deep blocks from just sitting on top of us. I don't want to keep Martinelli because he can, shin a couple of goals and, random goals into the back of the net. It's just he's just incredibly limited. Space Time says Arteta tanking Nelly stocks. What has he done to my boy? Double S16 says I told you we're giving Trossard new 100,000 plus contract and Martinelli almost on 200,000 pounds a week. What top left winger did you think we were getting? Shaking my head. Well, again, I'm not somebody was delusional to the idea of both of them staying meant that we would still get a left wing. What I'm saying is it's unacceptable for Arsenal not to improve their attack with two forwards. So I don't really care about if they're doing that, then that doesn't change the fact that we should change what our expectations are, what we should be getting. Them doing nonsense and keeping these guys is irrelevant to me. It is unacceptable not to get another forward in. So make it happen. Make it happen. Victor says, I've seen people say my Kai under the Havertz Instagram post. Some of the comments were freakier than his wife's comments. Crazy fan base. Well, I don't know. I've never seen a player have such a cult following, but be so average. So Saida says, Rodgers is good, but I feel like he's become overrated. I just know Villa will quote a massive fee. John says that 23-24 season, I think the team reached its peak, but Arteta messed up in that Villa game. We would have had at least one Premier League title by now, and that season wouldn't hurt us as much. I mean, I do think that the players really thought that they could win it in that season. The way that they played, the way that they rebounded after Dubai, because I don't even think that they were like totally terrible at the beginning of the season. I think that was more an Arteta problem by trying to galaxy brain the midfield, and that fucked us up. The new dynamics in midfield after having such a well-oiled machine. I think people forget that Odegaard and Xhaka and Partey had played together multiple seasons, not just one. They played with each other the season prior. Like Partey had injuries, but that was our midfield. So you broke that apart and brought in players with completely different skill sets. You put Partey at right back, which was strange. He got injured. Everything kind of was just very strange. Gabriel wasn't starting. And so it just started us off on a bad foot, but we were fit and we were defensively solid, which are two things that I don't think we had this season. We weren't as defensively solid in some ways, and we also weren't physically fit. So we were able to utilize, the defensive solidity plus our fitness. And then we just needed to change some things around to get us clicking for the second half of the season. And they really did believe that they could win it. And instead of, getting them up again, especially after so many of our key players playing in the Euros, especially like Declan and Saka and Havertz, they played a lot of minutes in the Euros. some other players as well. It was like, and Saliba, instead of giving them the types of players that would allow them to rest and come into the season a little bit later and, create a new buzz around the team and a new belief, they gave them Sterling and said, okay, go again. And that's not really the team's fault. The team can still go to another level, but they need more players to help them reach that status. And the club did them an absolute disservice for not doing it. I feel worse for the players than I do the fans, because the fans, it is what it is. But and we've been suffering. I get that. But the players have put so much effort into getting us into this place, and they were so close, and they were awarded with nothing. They were rewarded and like they were not supported with anything. And I could only imagine what it was like coming off of the back of the Euros, coming back into Arteta's, system and this season expected to perform on all four fronts with no support, none. And the club knowing that they had players that were on the edges of injuries and still not bringing in anybody. I feel bad for them. I do, because now we're questioning whether or not these players are good, and they are really good. They just need extra. They need more players, around them, and better players to help lift them up. What else says we may need more at left wing, but tactically we are not platforming the left half space at all, especially because all Odegaard does is take up Saka's space. Well, nobody was complaining about Odegaard taking up Saka's space when, we were actually playing well. I think, the left half space is a dead zone, and that doesn't have anything to do with Odegaard, so I'm not sure how he's getting blamed for everything when the left half space is really Arteta's worst shit sandwich he's ever made. Cyprium says, I think it's mad not to change the left wing. Like the teams can just pack up the right half space and we don't punish them on the other hand. I don't think people realize how little space there is on the right to operate. They know they just have to flood that side and plug the spaces on that side. And people expect our players to find gaps where the gaps are like this fucking small and, there's this much space from them into the goal and this much space in between, lines. And they expect you to be able to figure something out from there. You lose the ball and everybody's capitulating over it. But the left-hand side helps with nothing. But the right-hand side is the problem. Yeah, good one. Really smart. Great comments. John says Berta is Edu under the mask. No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. He just has, he has a lot to prove, I think, in a summer window where there's a lot of anxiety. Let's see. The comments. I am sassy. But man didn't want to sell Martinelli, and I was being told Trossard is going to be legit. John says, I saw TalkSports posting that the Zuby deal might collapse. It's not going to collapse. It's not going to collapse, guys. Come on. It's not going to collapse. We know from now until July when we can actually confirm the signing and actually not confirm it, but get him for the medical and actually announce it. There's going to be tons of people regurgitating these same things about that one little quote that came out from him where he said, I could stay here, I could leave, blah, blah, blah. Nothing is happening with that signing. I don't know how to say it, but don't get looped into people regurgitating the nonsense. We know that he's going to come. That's the only thing I'm certain of. The Arsenal perspective says the problem isn't the right-hand side. The problem is the lack of balance and variety across the front line. Too much reliance on the right-hand side, very little through the middle and the left-hand side. It really needs to be evened out. The left-hand side doesn't work. So, I'm sure Zubimendi was waiting to see what attacking players Arsenal signed before he's joining. Very smart. If we don't do promising business, he's off to Madrid. No. All of the paperwork and everything has been transferred over. The only reason why we haven't announced it and he hasn't done a medical, one, is because he's with Spain. And two, is because we're both trying to get that signing to be on a different calendar year for accounting reasons. He's not sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like we're not signing players and we're not going to come. I get it. Maybe, maybe Saliba would be thinking about those types of things before he resigns, but it has nothing to do with Zubamendi. Blaze says Arsenal fans rather believe TalkSports than Ornstein, Fabrizio, and Simon McBell. I just think TalkSport and all of those types of people are going to regurgitate this getting hijacked from Real Madrid when we know he didn't even. I don't know how to explain it again because we talked about it yesterday. If you want to believe he's getting hijacked and he's not coming, then fair enough. That's for you to worry about, not me. Stuart says, my worry isn't Zubamendi not coming. It's him not settling in England. I think La Liga players actually do settle in the Premier League quite well. I'm not really concerned about him not settling, if I'm honest. I don't think our system is too robust or too running heavy for him. I don't think that the league is just like, I think he will have to get up to speed, but unless I'm sure he's been to London. He knows what it looks like. He knows it's gloomy and shitty, so it's not going to be San Sebastian. He wouldn't have agreed to come if he thought it was going to be sunny and nice. But yeah, from a playing perspective, I don't worry about it because players in La Liga, I think, tend to translate pretty well, but that's just me. The lack of proper left wing and striker, Saka has been overworked as compared to Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo to produce the kind of stats right now. Victor says they're playing too much into the doomerism. Zubamendi will happen. Stop listening to blue check Twitter in the nose. I told you guys yesterday or the day before, prepare for there to be a constant influx of doubt cast over the Zubamendi thing because there's space to do so. If it's not announced, there will also always be somebody saying that he's not coming or whatever, but we know he's coming. Like, we know it. So that's the only thing we do fucking know. So that's the one thing that we do know, and that's it. Let's see. Blaze says Santi Garzola settled in very well in the Premier League when he came from La Liga. Yeah, I don't worry about La Liga players translating to the Premier League. Unless, I don't think I think maybe there will be some homesickness, in terms of like, you're going to have to go to Sunderland probably on the first day of the season because, when the schedule comes out, we're getting that Friday night against Sunderland under the lights. So that was something that he'll have to look at. Yeah. But other than that, I think he'll be okay. Let's see. Next, so I wanted to read out some of the things that I saw from the other one. I'm not going to put it up on the screen because it's paywalled. And I know this is kind of like, but you're telling us, but it's like, it's different than like showing you, isn't it? What Eisen Khan said in the Daily Mail. I only screenshotted the parts that I felt like were the most interesting. So I'll read them to you. So make sure you're listening, class. Okay. He said, I can see at least 4 deals being made this summer. The signing of Martin Zubamendi from Real Sociedad is pretty much complete. So after that is a striker, backup goalkeeper to David Raya, and then possibly a young left winger or defender who can fill in at the back. In terms of priority order, I would have them as follows, with the assumption that Zubamendi is a done deal: striker, left wing, young defender, and then backup goalkeeper. The fact that the Gunners were monitoring the situation of Bournemouth Dean Huijsen, who has signed for Real Madrid, shows that the defense is an area of interest, yet it's not a pressing concern because Jakob Kivior is expected to stay. Kivior was earmarked for an exit earlier in the campaign, though his solid displays in the last couple of months deputizing for the injured Gabriel have given the hierarchy a rethink, which he should. Like, it absolutely should. 100%. It absolutely should. So it should change things. Now, no signing a left. They asked if a left wing was a certainty. He said no, signing a left wing is a desire, not a certainty. It will likely depend on the cost of the striker when they sign. If they break their budget for someone like Sesko, who could cost in excess of 70 million, the chances of bringing in a seasoned left winger dwindles. So then you're not looking at the Rodrigos or, those types. You're going to be looking at the younger players, maybe like this Pascal guy, right? One option could be to sign a developing youngster. A developing youngster. They did this with Martinelli as he arrived from whatever and played in the under 21s before becoming a first team star. It wouldn't surprise me if they did this again. To me, that makes no sense to bring in a developing youngster that would potentially be, on the level of under 21s. You need to upgrade upon the dead zone that is our left wing position. It is not good enough. We're already going to be doing, a combination of Sesko and Havertz being good enough. The combination is like Saka can hold up that position on his own. Anything that we add to that is a plus. With Havertz and Sesko, it's going to be adding those two together to make it work. Trossard and Martinelli, we know ain't good enough, so I'm not trying to hear that shit. In a May press conference, Arteta was asked about depth in attacking midfield. He didn't mention loanee Fabio Vieira or the need to enter the transfer market. Instead, he name-checked Dauman. Oh, let's stop there before I go to the rest. MM says Zubi solves the mid-block issues. Jordan says, we need goals. I like Rodrigo, but Arsenal need a winger who can contribute a lot of goals, and a top striker is needed. Yo-Yo says, Arteta's penchant for prioritizing defenders and keepers remains the bane of my existence. AFC can't read the room on many levels. Their ability to read the fans and what the fans want is baffling. What's the point of all the PR if you can't improve the relations with the fan base? PR is just to keep us happy for the meantime, but I don't really think they care what we think at all. Because if they did, they would do a lot more than what they're doing now. Octavio says, one reason this window next season feels like a make or break is that they should 25-26 go as miserably as the last, then we may see some of our better players listen to offers from richer title-winning clubs. It does feel like this next season does feel like make or break in terms of the project. Like if we don't win something, there'll be tons of articles coming out. They're probably already pre-written that the project has failed. It's done, so we know that. So there's a lot of pressure on it, and that's on them. It doesn't have anything to do with us. They haven't won anything. So, I don't know, like you should have won something. You should have taken the domestic cups a little bit more serious, John says, with Partey and Zubi in plus Sesko potentially and a left wing, will it be enough to keep up with City? I mean, the reality is that we had our window. We had multiple windows. I really do feel like we should have won that first year. I think that was a Leicester season, not as bad as a Leicester season because we weren't as low as like Leicester were, because Leicester before they won the league, it was like nobody expected them to do anything, right? But I really do think that we should have won it then. I think a top manager gets you over the line. I think he makes the right decisions to make sure the club feels or the team feels excited about going into those games and not nervous without Saliba. And in turn, whatever he did or whatever he said made them shit their fucking pants. And they couldn't get it over the line when they were like 8 points clear, which to me is still painful. And then this past season was like a slam dunk for us. Had we had just gotten the striker and reinvigorated the squad and made sure that we were ready to go in the summer, we would have had pretty much a good chance of going toe-to-toe with a Liverpool side for that title and maybe winning it. So we've had chances. Now beating City when they've re-upped is going to be hard, so I don't know what it's going to look like next season. On paper, it's not looking good. I look at our team versus their team and the players that we're meant to get in and the players that they're meant to get in. And I don't think we're really touching them, to be honest. I think we'll find it difficult to keep up because we just have the ability to lose just a couple more games than they do. I still don't think we've solved our Villa problem where when we play up against teams like Villa and Newcastle in the league, We drop nonsense points because we can't score a little goal. We can't score literally a goal, or we just win the fucking game. So yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but we'll be closer if we still go out there and bring in a Morgan Rogers or an Eze or something like that. We'll be closer and we'll give ourselves a good fighting chance. We have to win something next season. So Aha says we currently have an 18-man senior squad, by the way, after Jorginho, Tierney, Neto, Sterling left. Kwame says hi, Jess, and the rest. Dio says it's over. Taku says I gave up after Arteta said we were the best team in the UCL. Dude is hopeless. I just wish he would stop putting out dumb stuff that ends up just being used against us constantly. We're the best team in the UCL, and then this whole goosebumps excitement is just going to be just so painful to hear back from rivals using it as a stick to beat us with. It's just so embarrassing. I just want him to be quiet, just once, and just do it on the pitch, or get the results on the pitch and stop all that chat. James says, how do Arsenal fans feel about the nation state owned clubs? Looks like that's the only way to compete. I mean, Liverpool are competing. I think a lot of Arsenal fans would take the last 6-7 years from Liverpool, because you would at least know that you did absolutely everything in your power to compete against a club that has the types of resources that you don't have access to, or that your ownership will not give you access to, or whatever. But what we do is pretend we're doing a Liverpool, but we haven't. FSG at least have the best in class in terms of scouting, recruitment, and then the best manager that they could possibly get. Or they at least had that with Klopp, and it looks like they'll also have that with Arne Slot. We go with the unproven manager, give him infinite amount of time, kind of enough resources, but still not enough to really push. We just kind of have to do the job. They're really poor. Keenan says, did you guys talk about Karastas? Why are you paying $38 million for another Fabio Vieira when we need an elite left wing? I don't think we're getting him. I think that was just, how every once in a while we get these weird things that pop up out of nowhere that say, oh my gosh, that say we're getting a young player. It never happened. So I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't like the Gyökeres stuff. I really hope he goes somewhere else. But if he ends up going Manchester United, that could end up being, I just hate how dark next season could potentially get. We're going to be playing Havertz up front. And, Gyökeres would, I don't know. Is he going to hit the ground running? I don't know. But it looks like he might be going to Manchester United. And the narrative is going to be that he rejected us, when we know that that's not true, but that's how it'll be written. AD says, and what about the links to the Greek? Oh, I already said, I don't think that that's anything to worry about, because nobody has said that's going to happen. John says the amount of years without a major trophy goes hand in hand with my age. Maybe I'm the problem. Aegon says, you going to watch the Spain against France? I don't know. Maybe. I'm liking my time off, guys. I'm liking my time off. I don't know if I really want to. Is there anybody that we could even be watching in those games that could potentially be coming here? I don't think so. There's no benefit for me watching it, except for just watching for the sake of watching. I'm liking not looking at our players play or our team play at all. We'll see. Taku says, what people need to understand is that all you need is a good scouting system, a couple of world-class players, and a manager with a clear vision, and you can win things. It's really not that complicated. Zubi plays today. I know that I've seen Zubi play so many times. Alas, I'll watch Zubi play. Zubi has felt like an Arsenal player for about 12 months now. I feel like I have watched him a million times. So, but we will watch. Marino, is he playing striker? Let's look. Nothing is funnier than I know you guys you don't know my mom, but my mom is the funniest person on the planet. Um, and she said, I asked her, I was like, just you and me, between you and me, how do you feel about Marino? How do you feel about Marino? You know? And just between you and me, no one, and she was like, and I was like, were you expecting more? And she said, yeah, he's just so slow. And I was like, you know, um, Marino was probably the one thing for sure I know I got wrong. Like, I thought he was going to be much better. And he ended up being somebody that if I could go back and spend the money differently, I would. Oh my gosh. I know it sounds so fucked up, but it's just true. Um, um, Zuby, yeah, and Marino, I guess, is in midfield. Could be up front. Ball. Yeah, no. No, he's not up front. He's in midfield. Right? All right. We'll watch that shit. We'll watch it. We'll watch it. Zuby, don't let me down. Because it's already started. If you guys were watching the Germany-Portugal game, and I was looking at the timeline, and I was like, they're already going Wirtz versus Bruno Fernandes and all type of stuff. I'm like, he hasn't even been announced, but you just know there'll be a fail comp if he doesn't play well, right? So yeah, Keenan says, was saying it the whole time, should be signing Fabian Ruiz. We signed the wrong Spanish midfielder. Yo-Yo says, does Raya start? No. Unai Simon is starting. Kwame says, it looks like we won't sign any player for the next season. I think we will. We're going to sign players. It's just a matter of if we're going to sign enough and at the level. We know we're going to sign Zubamendi and probably Sesko. I just would prefer if we don't sign Jokers for him to go to another league. I mean, that is just not something that I'm looking forward to. I'll be so honest. The comparison is just dark. Who's winning in the race, Marino or Giroud? 100 million. I mean, he's just so slow. And you know what? It's I like Marino. He seems like a really nice guy, a good person to have around, but he has this thing where he just fouls so much. And it's just it drives me insane. Players that over foul when they're, beat or they're frustrated. He fouls so much and it just kills me, man. It's crazy. Abdo says, I don't want neither Zubamendi nor Tesco. Oh, you guys are calling him Tesco. I do want Zubamendi. I do feel like, if you guys think that Liverpool has a really good scouting department, then you understand why Zubamendi is probably a top player. It's not even just him. Xabi Alonso rates him. Xavi Hernandez rates him. Pep rates him. Everyone fucking rates him. He's a player that, because he's a DM, I think unless you see kind of those boombastic DMs, it's hard to really gauge what they're doing that's so special. But we need tempo control and we really need more technical quality in midfield. So yeah, boys, you said I'm saying it wrong. Is it not Dio? Is it Dio or Dio? You keep saying I'm saying it wrong. I've been saying Dio for about 24 hours now. So is it Dio? Dio? I think it's Dio, is it not? I think that's what you said it was. Please do the phonetic spelling. Aha says, do you know what Tesco is, Jess? Yes, I do. I do know what Tesco is. Thank you very much. I will say that the UK has elite snacks. When you go to a Tesco or something, I loved getting snacks from there. So yes, Dio. Exactly. Okay, so I was saying Dio. It's Dio, 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 Dio. In fact, let me get a little piece of paper so I can just leave it on my desk. It's not Dio. It's Dio, right? You guys probably can't see it. You can't see it. There. There. Done. Blay says, I think we use Marino signing to have good relationship with Real Sociedad to buy Zubamendi. Well, I don't want to. Why can't we just have good relations? Why does it have to be through buying someone else? So crazy. I thought Marino was gonna do more, man. Maybe it was hopium copium, but I was like, he has to change our fortunes on that left-hand side. He needs to have a little bit of the Xhakas, and my goodness. Woo! Crazy. John says, "I was happy with Odegaard finally getting his shooting boots." Um, Listen, I'll say less on Odegaard. You guys know how I feel about him. We will be there next season. Talk soon. Abdo says, "As things stand, where do you think we'll finish next season, especially with how City and Liverpool and Chelsea are doing business? Somewhere between like 4th and 5th. I think that's pretty clear, or at least it's not something that if you said it, like I guarantee like almost everybody is going to predict us to come 4th or 5th. Guarantee it based on what those three teams are doing and what we're not. And the fact that the narrative is going to be that our time is past. And so, yeah, 4th or 5th, probably. Because it's going to be City and Liverpool, and then Chelsea are going to do a lot of business. They already started their business. They bought the goalkeeper, whatever. Yeah, I think 3rd or 4th, but I think a lot of people are going to predict us 4th or 5th. So yeah. Arsenic says we will finish 4th. Josh says game over for the manager. Jordan says shooting boots on when there's nothing to play for. Space Time says, nah, we're still better than Chelsea. If business is just Sesko Zubi, we'll probably be 3rd. Yeah, I think Chelsea will be stronger next season. And the thing about the Chelseas and the Man Uniteds is they don't need much to start feeling themselves. I think that's the thing, is that they gain confidence very quickly because they believe that they're Chelsea and they're United. I saw Man United fans today talking about winning the league next season based on the signings that they're making. And I'm like, is any Arsenal fan talking about winning the league next season? No, it doesn't take much for these other teams to get the confidence going, and a confident Chelsea or confident United is different than Arsenal because there's always an element of doubt in Arsenal. So it's tough. Taku says, I really don't want Chelsea to get Magnan. They should keep that scrub and goal. I'll be honest with you. Unless he magically becomes a completely different person, an injury-prone goalkeeper with, get him. Get him. We'll finish 3rd, guys. I have a lot of complaints about Arteta, but he will certainly coach this team to 3rd or a higher finish. Jordan says Chelsea are the next guys up, and unlike us, they will actually win things. Burmy says at this rate, 5th. Need to see elite signings to imagine a higher position, looking like 3rd plus an FA Cup. You would be honestly, if you that, to me this season, I would have taken that. I would have taken that with all of our injuries and everything. A 3rd and a FA Cup, I would have taken that. I would have taken that. I would have taken it because people downplay the trophies and what it means and how it feels, but winning silverware is the only thing that gives you the feeling that you're doing the right things. It is a exclamation point at the end of a sentence. They can't take it from you. There is no, but you didn't, but you didn't, but you didn't. It is a trophy. It is what it is, especially something that means so much to this club. I think one thing that is becoming clear for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta is that a lot of the kind of recipes that we had and a lot of the things that made us Arsenal are being stripped away. Classinal, young recruitment, French players, the way that we play, the way that we take the FA Cup serious, all those things are kind of gone. And so it does feel like the club is really different, and so an FA Cup in a 3rd place would have been better than what we did this season. Victor says, yeah, 24-25 was the season to get a trophy. 25-26 was supposed to be major. Octavio says, I still have hope for Marino. To be fair, it reminds me of how Xhaka was frustrating until his best position and system was found. I think with Marino, he just needs to know that he's in the Premier League and shit's going fast. So you need to move just a little bit faster. But we'll see how he does next season. Space Time says, is Arteta the biggest problem at Arsenal right now? No, the biggest problem is the owners, but Arteta is the most changeable problem that we have. You can't sack the whole team, and you can't get rid of the owner. So he's the most changeable problem. But make no mistake about it, the Cronkies are the biggest problem at Arsenal. The biggest problem. Because under them, like a good ownership doesn't even hire Mikel at the beginning, you know. So um so yeah, but the last thing I just wanted to just touch on really quick before we get out of here is um the new head of recruiting. I know that this doesn't matter for this summer. It does because he's coming straight in and he's going to assist Berta, which is a good thing because getting Ito out, I don't really care like what people were saying about he was doing this in it's like instantly as soon as somebody is put at the forefront and Mikel starts talking up somebody, the same people start talking about how great this person is and how great that person is and all this type of shit. And I'm sorry, but somebody who's been around for 10 years that's went up the ranks and our recruitment hasn't been good, I'm thinking you're not good at your job or you're at least a part of the problem of why we're not getting the types of players that we should. It was not a badge of honor, in my opinion, for somebody to have been here for a decade. And under that time, our recruitment has not been amazing. It's been okay. And it's to a certain extent, like it has gotten to us, like got us further up, but it still has a lot of misses. And so I'm thinking you're a part of it. Time to go, buddy. So he's gone, and Arsenal are in advanced talks with Matteo Tognazzi over the senior recruitment role. I'll just say like shortly on this because I have to go, but this does matter for us. We need as much football men in the butts and seats as possible. We need people that have different ideas, new brains, new experiences, and somebody that is credited with certain young players coming into Juventus, I do think is important. Is he the perfect person? Probably not, but is he most likely better than Jason Ito? Yes. So I think a shakeup is definitely needed, and hopefully we see some young players come in sooner rather than later. Space and Time says that dude has some questionable tweets. I haven't seen them, so Yo-Yo says, never listen to what the club says, follow how they act. Appointing outsiders is a good thing at this point. Agreed. And Arsenic says, how good is Matteo? Let me see. Let me share my screen and see if we can see some of this stuff. Let's see. Who would have it? His name is what? Oh, I retweeted it. I'm stupid. Hold on. Sorry. I was like, wait, didn't I retweet some of this stuff? Yes, I did. He played a key role in Juventus next gen model that brought Sule, Yildiz, Hoyson, and more. And they said, like, watch to see whether this will correspond with Arsenal being much more active in the emerging talent market, which they need to be. And like we do. And then this is like an article about the emerging talents market that Juventus were like a big part of it, and he had a big part to play. So let's see. This is like a big write-up on it too. You guys can look at it on your own, but yeah, I think this is a good thing for us having an outsider. And some of those players are really highly regarded. We were trying to buy Hoyson, so being able to get them before they become something is, I think, important, So what happened to the Real Madrid scout? I don't know. Blaze says we are becoming PRFC. I don't think that to me, this is not PR. Hiring somebody is not PR, is it? If the head of scouting leaves, I think we have to be a little bit more like, come on, if you lose your head of scouting and Jason Ito and you hire somebody new, right? How is that PR? And if he did actually play a key role, this is somebody that's not an Arsenal person. This is somebody from outside said that he's credited with these players. To me, that's not PR. Those are things that were said even before him even coming. So to me, that's not PR. AD says they are making it so difficult to be an Arsenal fan. Marco says the Madrid scout is lost in the Amazonian jungle. I mean, the fuck? Where is he? But yeah, listen, guys, I gotta go though. Life is lifing, but make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk probably tomorrow. You know, let's see. Hopefully, we get an actual like here we go, or something fun. Something more than just looking and scouting and monitoring and twiddling our thumbs and picking boogers and shit. And we actually get something. So yeah, but make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out. We will talk probably tomorrow, and we'll watch. I guess I'll watch Marino and Zubamindi since you guys bully me into watching it. So yeah, but I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.